Here come the Wizards, Kevin.
Here they come. They're riding a winning streak, baby. Let's go.
We waited on them. After a big win in overtime against the Los Angeles Lakers last night, they won 5 games in a row. And you look at that, it's wild to look at the Eastern Conference standings, you know, even when you see Miami, who just went, I believe, 4-3 on their road trip, but you know, have been better than they had been to start the season. Like these teams are, you're like never more than 3 or 4 games out from like being a home court advantage team in the Eastern Conference, and so it certainly was not too late for Washington. We'll see how many they can win out of 10, how many they can win in a row. But, you know, we were much higher than they have performed. We were much higher on them than they have performed this year. And, you know, I think this is, obviously we didn't expect them to be winning 5 games in a row, but they're at least capable of winning games, which they had not shown to be capable of for the majority of the season up until this last 2 weeks.
I mean, you mentioned the standings, how tight they are. They're 3.5 games back from Indiana, who currently has the 4 seed. And Washington right now is in the 13 spot. And they're only a game and a half back from Miami for the 10 seed, a play-in tournament spot. So you have 3.5 game separation between the 4 seed and the 13 seed in the East. Anything can happen, man. It's still so early in the season right now. With Washington, you know, we kind of joke about, you know, putting our guy Mo Wagner in the starting lineup and putting Garrison Matthews in the starting lineup. But it does show, Chris, that having the 5 best players in your starting lineup doesn't always mean that's the best thing to do for your team in terms of responsibilities, in terms of where shots go, in terms of the defensive impact a guy might have. And Wagner and Matthews in their own respective ways have brought in some energy to that starting 5, and it's reshuffled the deck, moving certain guys to the bench that have better balanced that team. And I think it's also just the fact that this is the first time all season long they've had a continuous run of guys being healthy. And
yeah,
that's
they did have a
component.
bad break, and they missed a lot of time for COVID.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, it was nice to see, or it has been nice to see, Bertans, who they spent a fortune on the offseason, rise from the dead, because he was just, I mean, he was miserable the first 20 games of the season. And now, over the course of these last like 10 games, he's shot like 45% from 3. Like he's a weapon, which is what you spend, you know, the money on, is that when you've got Brad Beal and you've got Russell Westbrook, these guys are going to command attention. These guys are going to be able to go to the basket. You just need him to be a guy you can throw it out to, and when he's open, he knocks it down. And that had been an impossibility for the first part of the season. But now, I mean, that's what he does. You know what I mean? I still think it's an overpay to pay for a guy that does that, but he proved last year he can do that, and he can do it at a high rate. And so, you know, it's more fun that they're not horrible, because they got 2 big stars on their team, and they get a lot of attention and they get a lot of talk. So I'm glad they're at least making this fun, because that was really rough to start the season, to say the least.
Yeah, and you know what? I think, you know, last night some of the players talked about Rui Hachimura's defense as well. And you have certain guys stepping up in different ways. I think Denny, as a rookie, has been really good on defense as well. Rui Hachimura has shown positional versatility on that team, and he's really locked in there. So it seems like the Wizards right now, mid-season, after just a horrific start, dealing with the COVID stuff and all that, some other guys being in and out of the lineup, Russ included, they seem to be getting in a good rhythm, being healthy, and some of their guys that may have been struggling earlier are now stepping up. So it's all of these factors coming together that have the Wizards playing at a level that some people expected them to before the season. I liked the idea of what the Wizards could be when you have Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal together. So, you know, they're riding this 5-game winning streak right now, Chris. They've beaten the Lakers, Blazers, Nuggets, Rockets, and Celtics. Those are some good, tough teams in there. Are you buying this turnaround with them?
Yes.
You are?
I think what we find out is, as the season goes on, and especially with teams that are having to figure it out on the fly in a strange year, you know, we were at a summer league deal where Daryl Morey was giving his impassioned speech about, like, it's stars. It's a stars
league. This is the Bill Simmons podcast, right?
Yes. It's a stars league.
Yeah. With
and the stars,
there, right?
it ends up working out, right? And like you're seeing as time goes on, the teams with the best players start to figure it out, And if you've got 2 out of your 5, it's hard to believe that you're going to be bad, right? If you've got 2 outstanding players of your 5 guys, at minimum, you should be able to fill in the other 3. There's very few examples of teams with 2 awesome guys. And I know that, there are people that will argue Westbrook's not awesome anymore, but 2 awesome guys that have a crap team. And that team was a crap team. So do I believe that they are the 5-0 team? No. But do I believe that they are much better than they performed at the beginning of the year? Yes. And I do think that, we just talked about, and it's one of the hottest teams in the NBA, Phoenix. That didn't look like it does now. The first 15, 20 games of the year. It just didn't. We were sitting there going, are we going to get the best out of Devin Booker? It's kind of become a Chris Paul team where they play like one of the slowest paces in the NBA. What are they going to be? But like they figured it out. And I do think that there's, some of that's going to go on with Washington. We saw it last year with Houston. The Westbrook Harden thing looked crappy at the beginning, and Westbrook was terrible. And then once it got from about January until they stopped the season, that Houston team looked awesome. And then of course they came back in the bubble, and it was a debacle there. But I do think that we do need to pay some mind to, if you add in major usage guys, or you add in guys that are going to play a key part on your team, or you've switched out your roster quite a bit, that this stuff always takes time, always. And they had a harder road than usual because of sitting out for the amount of time they did, guys being in and out of the lineup,
for sure,
losing guys to injury, whatever it be. But I mean, so I thought they were going to be at worst a play-in team, and I think they will be a play-in team. I do.
Yeah, I think they'll end up with one of the top 10 seeds. Though, I mean, like it'll be interesting. Orlando ahead of them. I wouldn't bet anything on Orlando. No. Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte, Chicago, New York. That's going up. That's 12 through 7. We'll see. I mean, New York's really continuing to battle. Their defense is great. I don't see any reason to doubt that the Knicks will, continue to try to compete and win games. I don't see them falling off a cliff. Chicago, I kind of feel similarly about them. They get some good talent on that team. It's not a perfect fit, but they get a lot of guys playing well. Charlotte, same thing. Miami should continue to get better, 7-3 in their last 10 games. Atlanta, they're going to be competitive. So, with Washington in there.
Are they?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to score points. They're going to have high-scoring games. Anytime you have Trae Young, and we'll see what happens with John Collins, if they keep him through the deadline or what. But they get talent on that team. And so there's like a lot of teams battling for 4 spots.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams.